Basketball.
It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skiddy, and Malley for the Insight NBA show.
G'day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Insight NBA show. And I am your host today, Skiddy IFS, where you can find me on Twitter and all those good things. And I'm joined by my man, Liv_my_fantasy. Malley, how are you, brother?
Fantastic, mate. You look absolutely stellar in your Chrissy gift. The in-laws have gone and outdone themselves.
Oh, mate, I always tell the in-laws, don't get me shit. I don't want anything. Get it for the dog. Get it for the new bub that's coming along. But they went, we got you one thing. And I was like, okay, well, this year, I'll give you the pass for that. That's fine. Yeah. And you, representing your main man, the savior of San Antonio, Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah. The sort of one, not that he did very much today. Still got a double-double, but yeah, a little bit disappointing. But he can have a night off here and there's.
If it makes you feel any better, mate, he was the 5th ranked player this week and he ended on the 9th. So even that poor game today doesn't matter. Still absolutely taking the piss.
Yeah, imagine your worst week just still being top 10 in any aspect of your life. Pretty happy.
It would be nice. Hey, that's what we do as podcasters, though. So whatever, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take it. But yes, that is right. Today is the Pimp My Guys episode, the show where we make sure that we put a rocket up your players' asses so they start playing better in their fantasy weeks. What we like to do is we don't like to discourage them or make fun of anyone. What we want to do is just build them back up to being the players that we know that they can be or better than that, because we don't like seeing them play bad. We want to see them play at their best. But as we always know, day ones, standard squeeze, promo code IFS15. You guys know what it is. It's to be able to get this beautiful 4-in-1 that keeps your beers cold at night, coffee warm in the morning. Have it every single day, Mally. They are just the best sponsors that we could have asked for, really.
And I was wearing my little standard squeeze singlet to the gym the other day with the go and have a squeeze at the back when I was just working the glutes, and I thought that I was going to get a couple of bum pinches off the old ladies at the YMCA, but no. I'm
telling you, that's how you get the mills. Oh, that is just a surefire way. That's a cheat code right there. That's a Wembanyama cheat code.
Yeah, that's not going to hold up in court.
Oh, no. They can't do anything. The misso is probably looking at you going, are you sure about that one when you leave the house?
That one might, yeah.
Yeah. Mustache on, standard squeeze. Yeah, that's right. That's what you do. You walk through the door, veins pump there. That is beautiful. But, ladies and gentlemen, we'll quickly start off every time that we start this show. Quickly check the schedule coming up for the next week coming in fantasy. We had the 8 games today. We got another 8 tomorrow, 7, 7, 9. Mally, it is a beautiful week for streaming fantasy basketball.
Yeah, it is. Yep, and I love to stream, and it's just even as a spectator of the sport, it's just nice not being overloaded. 7's nice, you roll them out, especially while you're still on holidays. Roll them out, get a couple in the morning, couple after lunch if you're an Aussie. It's prime times.
It is one of my favorite things enjoying the NBA here in Australia, because you wake up, you do a bit of work, then the first game's on, you're like, here we go. The rest of the day is easy. You get home around 5, and that's when the game finishes. So it's beautiful. And then Monday is just beautiful because they started about 8 o'clock, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Basketball and brekkie.
That is the right way that we want to be intaking our must-bees. Our absolute must-bees. Last week, Mally, you weren't here. You were off gallivanting, having a great time on holidays. I was joined by G Wizzle and our last week changes. We like to keep ourselves accountable here on Pimp My Guys. J-Dub went from 128th to 69th. OG Anunoby, 157th to 102nd. Rudy Gobert, he joins the list of players that have not received the rocket and must have done a detour in France and not quite gotten to him in Minnesota. 176th to 208th. Would have been nice if he hit his free throws. James Harden, 178th to 177th. I'm not proud of it, but he went up, so that'll be all right. Miles Turner heard it loud and clear. You're welcome, Miles Turner owners, 190th to 14th. And Dennis Schroeder, 369th after an abysmal week 2 weeks ago, 2/20th. Still not great, but, anything was better. Low ball hit there.
Yeah. All he had to do was basically turn up and clock in for his shift to be able to get to 220. It's it's some sad times, but yeah, an improvement's an improvement. You'll take what you can get.
Yeah, we will. But, we want better. And that's why we're going to be able to try and get it for you, ladies and gentlemen. This week, we will send it straight to the players that they need. We'll talk about it, see if you need a drop, if you need a hold, what you want to be doing with it. And Malley, let's get stuck into it with our first guy. And we're heading to New York City. And we are looking at Jalen Brunson. Last week, he was ranked 123rd, season 55th. His points were down 20. I think he's from 25 to 23. Rebounds about the same at 3. Assists at 7, down a little. Steals 1.3, which is up for the year, which is very nice. Blocks at 0. He is at 0.1 on the season. Threes at 0.5, which is the main killer there. That's down from 2.4. 2.3, sorry, now. After that week, free throw at 77 on high volumes of 7.8 per game. Free throw, field goal at 42 on 19 attempts per game. Turnovers at 1.8, which is good, and usage has stayed the same from what it's always been. What are you thinking here with Jalen Brunson?
And I like that assist to turnover ratio. That's still pretty good. It's a bit of a shame that with the 2 games with Cat out, that he couldn't do a little bit more. I guess it goes to show the reliance on Cat for Brunson and the rest of the Knicks. He really is their number one guy this year. And as opposed to, I guess, Brunson, who was last year, who's had to take a bit of a back seat. But you look at the glaringly obvious thing there is obviously the threes. He starts games, he can't hit him, and then he just goes back to Old Faithful and just kind of goes in the lane and does those little floaters or gets fouled and ends up at the line. So, I think having that as in your back pocket, I think he just goes to that. And obviously threes are a pretty important part of his game, but he's really got to be locked in to be able to get them. I mean, what is he? He's like 5'0". So he's got to make sure he's a bit like Trey. He's got to have a nice little bit of clear sky before he lets them go. But yeah, I'm not worried about that. The percentages will come. We've seen them going up and down throughout the year. The usage is still plenty high. He's still the second offensive, if not on every other night, the first offensive option. He's still playing absolutely gigantic minutes. I guess you could have some fear, as you always do with the Knicks, that something could go wrong at any point there. But, I mean, we've seen guys... Yeah, I mean, that's the fickleness of injuries, isn't it? We've seen guys who play a much more reserve role who continually get injured. Look at New Orleans, look at Memphis. So, it's not exactly a 1-to-1 ratio of you play huge minutes and you get shagged, So, yeah.
I think the other thing we did... Yeah, I agree with you there. I think he'll be back. We've got to remember as well, 2 of those games this week out of the 4 games that he played, one was against OKC and one was against Orlando. Orlando obviously had Suggs to pretty much play on him, and he plays very, very well. He only shot 38% that game in OKC. He stunk it up as well. So I think we'll be better with Brunson back, and with Cat there as well really helps Brunson. His screens, rolling ability, the amount of focus that needs to be put towards Cat is very, very valuable for Brunson. I think we'll be fine. No need to panic if you are a Brunson owner at all. We go across to a very different kind of situation here that we need to talk about, Malley, and you might recognize him from the beautiful bastard shirt that I'm wearing right now, but that's Spider Mitchell. And Spider this week, he was the 172nd ranked player on the season. He's 29th. So he's having a very, very good year for the Cleveland Cavaliers. This week, though, 15 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4.7 assists. So that's up, which is all right. Steals at 0.7, which is a big, big factor when we are talking about 1.4 that he normally averages. Blocks at 0. Doesn't really get him, but does a little bit. His threes are at 2.3 from 3.8. Free throws at 85, which is up, so that's good to see. But the field goal is what kills. 45% down to 37 this week. Turnovers are at 1.3. And the usage, Malley, is down from 29 to 23. What are we talking about here for Donovan?
I mean, today they just didn't really need him to shoot, and he didn't shoot a lot. And when he did shoot, it didn't really go in. It was a bit of a hard watch. I mean, they still got the result. They had Mobley, who went absolutely nuts. They got Garland, went off. Struce went bananas. So they just didn't really need that part. But he still was a huge distributor today. He's still a defensive presence, as you said. That anything underneath the steal for him is just not what we expect. I think did he lead the league last year in steals?
He was close behind
he was real close.
Shea and Caruso and someone else.
Yep. So we know that's something that fluctuates as a fluctuating statistic, but that's going to come back for him. He's still the number one guy on this team most nights. It's definitely no panic time here. But again, I think if you're going to look at the statistics and try and build up a story around why things are happening, you're always happiest when it's the shooting percentages that are keeping somebody down, because you know from years worth of data that is going to improve. I'm fully confident he'll get back to where he was. And obviously, on the nights that he doesn't get his shots in, we could see tonight that he just became this distributor. You know, he kind of took that out of Garland's hands. Even though you have to do a lot of that. I mean, Allen and Mobley between them got like something wild, like 15 assists or something today together. So fun to see bit of big to big action that happened a lot today as well. So no panics. You don't burn your jersey. Don't do anything rash.
No, never would, mate. No, write it out. But the other thing that we do have to remember here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the Cavs have won, 11 in a row now. 10 of those, besides today, were by double figures. So the minutes for the Cavs starters have been down a fair bit. Donovan's only gone over 30 minutes 4 times in his last 9 games. So that is a watch just because of how much, they don't actually need him to be playing a stupid amount. It is a lesser workload, which is good for the Cavs, not as great for us in fantasy. If you do worry a little bit about that, Cavs aren't going to win every game by 10 plus. So don't have to worry about it fully. If you are going to trade Donovan, which I think in fantasy wise, if you can't get his steals back up, then we can genuinely look at that. You'd still be asking for someone for top 30 around that mark. That's where I probably had the cutoff line, just because of how much he can score and how valuable his scoring can be. So he'll be back with his threes. That's fine. No worries there.
And that was just not the week. You know, there would have been so many eyes on that game today. There's no one who didn't know what he did or didn't do today. So probably not your best. Not a good time to make a move. Hold on to it. You know, he's going to get back into good form. So write it out.
Bloody oath. But if you are a guy that is trying to target Donovan Mitchell, have a crack now and just throw up a top 50 or something like that and just go, hey, look, he didn't perform today. They've got the Thunder again next week. Man, it could be the time to go for it. Let's move on from my boy to one of your boys, Malley. Let's move over to San Antonio's man, Devin Vassell. Vassell is currently the 179th ranked player this week. On the season, he's 125th, so he's been having a good year. Points down, 14.8 down from 15, so that's all right. But this is one of these ones where we look at it and we go, okay, we can see where the problem is. The rebounds are up from 3.7 to 6.8. Love that. Assists are up from 3 to 4. Love that. Steals up from 1.5 from 1.2, blocks up to 0.8 from 0.5. Threes are down from 2 to 1.5. And then free throws and field goal. That's where we see the glaringly obvious reason why his rank is down. But I wanted to talk about it, Malley, to say, hey, look, the usage is the same, but the counting stats are up. It just needs the percentages to go up. And we can actually look at someone here and go, hey, look, increased role. Injury's not as worried anymore. Let's get the percentages up. And we've got a boy where we can go, okay, we've got a little bit of something extra here, rather than the 125th ranked player.
Yeah, and I'm assuming the statistics that you have there would have taken in the game that finished an hour ago. But like we saw him again go, it did? Yeah, well, there's 4 from 17. He nearly, his usage is through the roof. Like, he nearly took twice as many shots as the next person, which I think was Wemby today. He's probably enjoying a little bit of variety in his diet without having Sohan there, just getting those extra rebounds, getting a few more assists. The steals and blocks have been great. Like, he's this freaky little defensive number. So again, the theme of today seems to be shooting percentages. Like, this is the third guy that we've talked about now, where if instead of going 4 of 17, even if he got that up to, 7 of 17, that would have been a much better night, and like that would have been pretty acceptable. And he comes out firing too. Like, when I started to watch the game, like in that first quarter, he'd already got like 4 rebounds and like 5 points. Then he just kind of fell apart as the team fell apart. But he's getting all the shots he could want. The defensive numbers are there. He looks fit and kind of sprightly again, like he's moving around the court. He's throwing himself into the lane. He doesn't seem to get to the line as often as he should. He probably needs to do a bit more selling on that front. But with his free throw percentage is so trash at the moment, maybe it's good that he's not getting there as often as we'd like him to. But yeah, I am a Vassell owner. So yeah, the panic has run through my veins a little bit. But yeah, again, not the time to sell. We know that he has peaks and troughs. A little bit of a flat spot after they won 2-3 games ago now, and then they've kind of got 2 wallopings since. So we'll see how the Spurs kind of react and see what happens with him. But yeah, they've got a lot of viable wing options at the moment. So to know that they still go to him over Barnes, they go to him over Champagny, like they want him out there, they want him working. So yeah, I'm holding. But yes, so you have reason to have the sweats.
Yes, I agree there, but I think the main thing that's keeping him on the floor is his defensive ability, rather than a Keldon or a Champagny or a Barnes. That's why they roll Vassell out there. So I wanted to bring him up more or less to say, hey, look, his counting stats are up, which is great. So if you see the guy that you go, like, he's panicking about Vassell, I think this is the time where you go and try and buy Devin Vassell. It's a low point, but the counting stats being up, who cares about the percentages? They're only looking at the overall rank, so that's good. Here's one, Malley, that...
I was just going to say, last thing on that, like, it could be a turnaround point where his shooting comes back and then his defensive stats fall off and then he kind of plateaus. What we're hoping for is that he gets both. Hopefully he can continue to get these defensive stats, rebounds, assists, and then hit closer to 50% rather than 25% of his shots.
Yeah, I could not agree with you there more, mate. Here's one that I really am looking forward to what you're reckoning about this, because it's Spurs rival. It's the Rockets. It's Alperen Sengun, mate. Ranked 184th this week. Season is 43rd. Everything is down this week except for his usage. Red flags galore here, mate. Points down from 19 to 18. Rebounds down from 10.4 to 7.7. Assists down from 5 to 4.3. Steals down from 1.3 to 1. Blocks down from 0.9 to 0.3. Has not hit a 3 this week. Free throws are slightly down, 75.3 to 75. Field goal, which is really unlike LP to go, 46 down from 49. Turnovers are up, though, from 25 to 3.3. But as I said, the usage, 26.3 is up to 31.1 this week. And you might be saying to me, oh, Jakey, like, maybe it's just his minutes. Maybe it's his minutes. That's why everything's down. He's still he's averaging about 32 a game this week. Yes, there has been a blowout versus Boston. Yes, there was a blowout against the Wizards. But still, he should be feasting. And this week just wasn't it. What do we reckon about Alpi?
Sure, you're right. He came up against a few favourable matchups in the last few games, and he just wasn't really able to take advantage of them. I guess the question that most people will be considering is how much of this is a man. I mean, it's only 2 of the games. It could have been more if he hadn't been suspended. But 2 of those games are with a man. A man stealing all his rebounds because he's super eager to get to a 20 rebound game, and you can see that like he doesn't want to sit at all. He's also doing a lot of his work under the rim just because he's so explosive. But you'd think that would be good for Sengun's assists, which are down from where he has been for the rest of the season. And they aren't really going to Fred VanVleet. I mean, he was back up to 12 the other day after having a pretty slack run of things where he's been basically under 5 for like 3 straight games. But I guess the thing that people always worry about too with Sengun is you can get a person like Fred VanVleet on this team, and Fred could pick up the ball and boot it into the crowd halfway through a play, and Udoka would be like, It's all right. You got the next one. But, like, you always feel with Sengun like he's one miss off just being kicked out of the whole organisation, like the whole squad. Like you always worry a little bit about him. And one of those nights, I think it was 2 games ago, Stephen Adams rose from the dead like the Undertaker and started like doing everything and put a dunk down and he looked great. We got to love our Kiwi neighbours, and he's the best of them. But so it's kind of concerning. He's probably out of the list of guys we've talked about, the one that I always have the biggest worry about. But, I know from having him on one of my fantasy teams, and, I love a trade, I've never had more interest in anyone than I have in Sengun. So I would hold him for now. But, even when things are falling apart or if he just doesn't work for your team anymore, I mean, you kind of know what Sengun does. He hasn't changed his game. He just has peaks and troughs like anybody does. But there was like lambs to the slaughter. Hey, when I put him out there fishing. So there's interest.
Yeah, I'm on the. I'm under the thought process of where I'm sitting there going, okay, I think Amen does take a lot away, and it's not necessarily Amen being in more, it's the fact that Jabari isn't. Jabari is a stretch big. He is able to go for the blocks to allow Sengun to then be the weak side, to be able to be the second defender coming by, to be able to grab all the rebounds. Then on offense, he spaces the floor like an absolute legend. Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith Jr. Having all those guys out there just allows Sengun to work underneath. Having Amen, they are able to come off of him and be able to double team Sengun more, force the ball out of his hands. That's where I get a little bit worried about Sengun, and where I sit there and go, okay, I'm either going to sell Sengun at top dollar now because I can't wait. If I'm a middle of the road team, because I can't wait. I think it's 6 weeks or 7 weeks until Jabari's back. That's nearly 2 months.
Yep.
So yes, Sengun's could come back and be back to being the 40th ranked player when Jabari comes back. But if you can't wait until then you're going to have to be looking at getting, because I think the space is just too crowded. It may help a little bit when Tari Eason gets more run and be able to be that stretch 5 guy like Jabari was. But until then, like if you're in the middle of the pack, you're going to have to make it. I'd sell high on Sengun.
Definitely, and like, if we can get those assists up a couple and get that, if we can get the turnovers down 1.5, that would make a world of difference. So I think, it doesn't take a lot for him to come back into being a solid top 50, 40 type piece. But you're right. It's one of those things that if we watch another game of this and it just really doesn't look like it's working for him out there with Amen, I don't think the Rockets are going to change anything. They're still winning. They've got 2 relatively capable backup bigs, an Australian and a New Zealander, so they've got plenty of options to go to there. While they're winning, you can't see anything changing. They're not going to change things for Sengun. They seem to just I think I love the Rockets, but I think, and I like Sengun as well, but I think he's not long for the Rockets. I think they're always he's never a priority.
I think the other thing that they do as well is they can just give the ball to Jalen Green, and Jalen Green can just go out and hunt his own shot and get his own shot. So they don't need Sengun to always be the facilitator, especially if it's not working. Udoka is more than happy just having Jalen Green running it. But here's a guy now, Malley. This is where red flags start to come, and it's a guy that was on our radar right at the very start of the season of being able to get some value, but he exceeded that by a country mile, and that is Peyton Pritchard from the Boston Celtics. Last week, he was ranked 211th, though, for the season. He is 72nd. Points are down from 14.8 to 8 points per game. His rebounds are down from 3.5 to 1.8. His rebounds are down from 3.7 to 2.5. Assists down from 3.4 to 2.8. His steals down from 0.9 to 0.5. Blocks up from 0.1 to 0.3. Threes down from 3.5 to 1.8, which is huge for a guy like Pritchard. The field goal, the free throw percentage, yes, it's on stuff all volume, 0.5, so who cares? And the field goal down from 46 to 41 in turn. Turnovers are down, which is good to see. But the usage and the minutes, this is where it kills, Malley. Usage is down from 19.5 to 16.8, and his minutes are down from 27.9 to 21.8, and only one of those games were a blowout. So are we starting to worry a bit about Pritchard here?
I think a little bit. As you said at the beginning, he's been one of the big surprises for the season. You would have picked him up off your waiver wire in that second round and probably held on to him to this point. I know there's been a mass exodus on him across my 4 leagues. People have just been dropping him left, right and centre. He's just sitting on waivers. But he'll go. Like, it'll be one hot game. He'll come back. The it's not Cleveland, that's your mob. Celtics have played all these mock-up, faux playoff games recently, and so they've gone to their tight 6-man unit, and unfortunately when they do that, he's the clear 7th man and they just don't work him. But he's also had opportunities in the fact that they've just rested people, whether that's true resting or just we're in a fairly decent spot resting. Unfortunately for someone like Peyton, he's a bit of a one-trick pony. If he can't get threes, then what does he do? He's actually, for his size, he's a relatively decent defender, but he's not a defensive force. There's always other options on that team for shooting. He's not a big assist guy. He's certainly not a floor general from the point or the 2, wherever he plays on any given night. But so I think he's going to come back, because it only takes for someone like him one hot night, to hit 5-6 threes and play 25 minutes. So I think the only part of the problem is I think they only play a game or 2 over the next little stretch. They're real light on, and that probably coupled, unfortunately, with his timing of having 2 kind of fairly average nights, one extremely average night. And then people going, damn, I can't be doing this. Because he's only got a handful of games over the next round and a bit. So, I can see why people dropped him. I can see the panic.
Yeah, there's 3 out of his last 4 games, so all of his games this week, aside from the Houston game, were shitouts. So he really needs to be able to bounce back. He's one of those players that you do see that cold streak and then to come back into the hot streak. I wouldn't be dropping him per se, but I would be having him as a guy that I wouldn't necessarily play every night, if that makes sense, just because I feel like he was getting such a good run of it early in the season, because he was that 6-man. He was straight away the 6-man, as you said. But now with Holiday, White, Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis all playing, and then Al Horford still ahead of him, that's where I start to go, okay, usage is starting to take a hit. And then, they don't run him out for as many minutes, because they also they can stagger that lineup, have Sam Hauser out there. They can bring in Cater if they need to. There's a lot of different options that they can go for. So that's the ones that I worry about with Pritchard. I think that he's still the type of player, though, that can get you a little bit of everything when he gets enough of a run. So if you see Holiday out, if you see White out, if you see Brown out, if you see any of them out, that's when you want Pritchard on your team. So I would like to keep him for a little bit of a breaking clay in case of emergency type player, even if I'm just sitting him on my bench. But Malley, I've got this guy here, and oh God, he's been so bloody good this year, and now it's starting to worry because it's guys coming back again. It's Norm Powell from the Clippers, 48th on the season, ranked this week at 224. Points are down from 23 to 20.3, so something we definitely don't want to be seeing there. Rebounds are down 2.5, assists 3.8, steals 0.8, blocks at 0, threes at 2.5, where he has been so bloody good this year from 3. His field goal has been atrocious. Free throws down, but still okay. It's respectable. As I said, field goal, 39% needs to come up. That is just shocking shooting from a man that's been averaging 47 this year. Turnovers are at 2.8, and usage is still good, even though Kawhi Leonard played. Yes, it's in limited minutes, but Kawhi Leonard was back, and his usage went up from 27 to 29. So they're still loving it. Is it just a thing of, turnovers not getting it right, the shots not going in, we're not panicking?
Yeah. Poor old Kawhi's out again now because his neighbourhood's on fire, which is a bit sad. We kind of know how that goes in our country, so it's not nice. But like the rest of the team are healthy at the moment. Like they haven't had that for a while as well. I don't really think that impacts upon Norm too much. But he's definitely going through a cold streak. And his cold streak, unfortunately, isn't even back to like an acceptable level. He played better today. He put up more points than anybody else in what ended up being a bit of a shit show for the old Clippers. So that was a little bit of a light. So I think thankfully you gathered your statistics just before that game probably would have ended. He might have actually that might have just come fresh from the end of that game there. So that probably built into what you just showed us. But
it did.
I can see why people would have the panics, but Kawhi's a long way off being right. And even then, I think there's still plenty of room. Like Powell is essentially filling the Paul George role from last year. And we never thought, oh man, poor old Paul George isn't getting his. Like no one else in that team. Like Harden, as soon as Harden doesn't have to be a shooter anymore, he's stoked and he'll just dish out his 12 dimes and get a block and a steal. So it's not like he's still going to be their first or second option offensively most nights. Again, said it before, no smoke without fire. Obviously, there's reason for people to be a bit worried. But I think as well, you're not going to be able to trade him off at the moment anyway. With Kawhi coming back in, that ship has sailed, unfortunately, even though he's not currently playing. So I think you just know what he has been able to do this season and hold on to him. And again, a little bit like your Peyton Pritchard setup, where if you're coming to make a choice between two players at present, maybe he has to be the one to sit on the bench, depending on how big your active roster is. This week, it's probably you don't have to make those decisions because we've been blessed with the old 7 through 9 games a day. So everyone's I haven't had to make a choice in 2 weeks or something now. Everyone's just slotted in perfectly. It's been a delight.
It would be nice if that was the case every day, but unfortunately that's not. So that's the way we say it. But yeah, I'm with you as well on Powell. He was always, I have him in a league and he was always the guy that I was like, okay, when Kawhi comes back, I'll make the decision. I'll probably drop him, but he's still been good. So still getting the over 20 points per game, which is what you want from a guy like Norman Powell. Let's remember into this one as well, ladies and gentlemen, was that stinker against OKC where he shot 1 of 11. That's not going to happen every week for Norman Powell. We can definitely expect better than that. So I think his scoring still carrying, but if he's the guy that's on the verge, if he's not scoring, he can piss off. Like that's in my eyes. I feel like he's still going to be able to bring it back for us in a certain way. Malley, let's run this. Oh, sorry. Yeah, another thing on Norman Powell.
I was just going to say, look at the context too of the Clippers. Like Zoo hasn't been playing that well. Dunn's just drifted off to being nothing again. Jones has been pretty average. Harden's been real flat. Like he had 1 half decent game in amongst it. So it's not even like they're getting so close to these wins and Norm can't get them over the line. They all look tired and haggard and shit at the moment. So I'm sure the context of what's going on around them presently with the fires is probably impacting him a little bit as well. It'd be hard to focus. I mean, they weren't at the Intuit Dome today, but they're obviously out on the road and we'll be coming back to that soon. So tragic.
Yeah, you're right, mate. And we do send our best to everyone in LA affected by the fires. We hope that everything goes all right there. So prayers up to you and your families. Malley, we'll go rapid fire. You tell me, would you hold, would you sell, would you drop, or would you be looking to buy right now? We'll go with Jalen Brunson.
So there's too much media around this guy, and you just know that around the corner, he'll come back to shooting his threes, probably the blocks, well, we don't worry about, but you can see that it won't take to a couple more shots from outside, gets him back to being that close to, 25, 26, 27-point player. So, yeah, I hold him.
Yep, I agree. I wouldn't be worrying too much. And if I can get if I could get a top 40 or top 50, I'd probably have a look at it. But other than that, I'll be holding Brunson, especially with the points that he's able to generate. What about Donovan Mitchell?
Makes me nervous. But again, it wouldn't be a sensible time to do so. And you look at his season-wide numbers, and they're still pretty flash hot. So he's having his week off. He'll come back. He'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. If I was able to try and trade for Spider, I bloody damn well would be. This is the week where he's just had it off a bit. Once we get past that Thunder game, it'll be back to the Donovan of old in my eyes there. Could even see it tomorrow against Toronto. Devin Vassell.
All signs point towards this being okay. We're very comfortable with all the rest that he's doing. He just is under a lot of pressure to score, and he's not really living up to that. But yeah, it takes a couple of heaters for him. When he gets hot, he gets hot. I think I'd be holding. But I mean, you've also got a case at the moment for a sell if you want, because all those other statistics look so juicy, and it'd be quite easy to convince someone like, look, my guy, it's just the shooting comes back and he's all good. He's doing all the rest of this stuff. I'm moving off him. Is it something that you'd be interested in? So, yeah, one's a 50-50.
Yeah, I agree there as well. I can see I would be buying, but also too, the thoughts of Sohan returning to it and they have him for more defense and they don't need Vassell as much, and maybe if he's having a cold night. But yeah, I still think I'd have that gamble, and I'd probably try and take a buy on Devin Vassell around that, just a bit over the 100 mark. So I reckon I'd be pretty comfortable with that. What about Alperen Sengun?
He always seems to be right for the selling. I mean, as I said, from personal experience, I had him last year and I had him this year. I don't have him anymore, but he's one of those guys that people just seem to love the fantasy game of. I mean, he's like Josh Giddey, but can score. Like he gets near 10 assists, near 10 rebounds. Defensive stuff never really comes to him. The percentages are always like okay, but never like outstanding. Yeah. But I think he's going to struggle for a little while. So I guess the answer to the question is, if you can ride out the next 4 weeks while it's the Amen show, great. If you think you're not in a position to do that, it might even get worse before it gets better. So it's definitely not a sell high, but is it a sell now because you can't really ride the next fortnight?
Yeah, exactly. And he's had a great season. Let's not sugarcoat that or anything like that. But I need him to be closer to Domantas Sabonis than to be like DeMarcus Cousins today. Like I need him to be the beast where he's getting me a shitload of rebounds, 10. It has to be 10. The assists, he still gets a couple of defensive stats, so I'd like that. But yeah, I need him to be better than that. If I'm middle of the pack, then I'm selling him for as high as I can. But because he can do it all. He's one of those centers that can get the assists, the rebounds. So. But yeah, I'm worried about the Amen situation and Jalen Green just taking the piss. Peyton Pritchard.
I think if you dropped him, that's okay. Realistically, what was he going to be? Depending on how deep your roster is, he's not in your top 5-6 guys at all. And unfortunately, even though he's been doing it quite well, the things that you can get from him are the things you can pick up off the waiver anyway. Like, go to Clowney today. He put up 29 points, hit a squillion threes. I mean, definitely not a Peyton Pritchard, but there's just so many guys in opportunistic positions at the moment, because as soon as somebody goes down on these New Orleans, on these Brooklyn Nets, on these Memphis Grizzlies, they just roll out like guys who shoot and can't do anything else. So mine is cut and run, especially with the upcoming roster, and just pick up one of these guys who's been hot and have a good time with them.
Yeah, and if you listen to our pre-week podcast with me and G Wizzle, G Wiz did say to pick up Bryce Sensabaugh from Utah. I know he's questionable, but he is the 10th ranked player in fantasy basketball this week, averaging 30 a game. What an absolute G. Which I should probably give this shout out to G Wiz. What a man. Pritchard, I'd still just be holding, but as I said, he's the first guy that you'd be picking up if you see a Celtics starting 5 injury. What do you think about Norman Powell?
I think that the threats to him in our minds are greater than the threats in reality. So I think hold on, ignore all the negative press and your chats and whatever, because you'll be getting some buy low offers coming your way, I'd say, pretty soon. And he's also the kind of guy that realistically, if you have a hard think about it, his role, yes, may diminish a little bit with Kawhi, but it's not going to be a lot. Realistically, even when Kawhi does finally get back to full strength, he's still going to be every second night the number one offensive option, and then Kawhi will get hurt again, and then he just goes back to doing what he's been able to do for these last 11 weeks of fantasy basketball. So hold tight.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on hold there. You can't find a guy that's going to be able to get the 20 average of points, because that is what we need from guys from being able to get points. That's bloody hard to find on the waiver. So I agree. Even if it's like, you might sit there and go, hey, look, I've got this guy that scored 20 in this game, but you're not going to get someone that does it consistently as Powell. Powell is just getting 20 for fun. Like, it's so safe, except for obviously the 6 that he scored this week. But, ladies and gentlemen, that was Pimp My Guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed it and we were able to get a rocket up some of your guys. If you do want us to pimp some of your guys, make sure you tweet at me at SkiddyIFS or at Malley at live_my_fantasy. Yep. And we will pimp them up for you the next week. More than happy to do this. Thank you very much, Malley. Good to have you back, my brother. And we'll see you guys. Always a pleasure. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.